So I always like in the beginning for people to put in the chat, like what comes up when they hear the word mindfulness. And today people put in, I think, present moment awareness, something about moment to moment. And then one of the ones that stood out to me was difficult, which I thought was great. So thank you to whoever put in difficult. Usually it comes in the sharing part after we do our meditation practice. Someone says like, that was really hard. And was hard for me to do that. So I think it's great to come right off the bat and like something that can help us feel more calm isn't always easy. It can be a challenge to be still. Even before the call, those of us who organize were talking about that, that it can be a challenge to come into stillness. It can be a challenge to work with our mind. So that's where we're going to start. And what I want to do today, just to give you a roadmap of where we're going and some predictability, I'm just going to talk for about 5 more minutes and give you a basic background with a working definition of mindfulness. So we're all going from the same definition. And then we'll do a practice together. And then after the practice, we'll kind of share out your experience with the practice and take any questions from there. So what it is and what it isn't. The working definition, in the mindfulness field, and I consider mindfulness to be like another word for awareness. We're always aware of something. You're aware that you're hungry. You're aware that you have a lot to do today. You're aware that, you can't wait for the weekend. So mindfulness is an awareness, but it's unique in that it also has an aspect of curiosity with it, kindness, and non-judgment. So maybe that's where a little bit of the difficult or the challenge comes in. And it's called a practice because we need to practice these things. We need to practice not being judgmental towards ourselves and others. We need to practice being curious, noticing our reactions, being curious about what's really happening. And especially we need to practice kindness towards ourselves. That's a big aspect of mindfulness. So the working definition, mindfulness is a present moment awareness to things as they are in the moment that has an aspect of curiosity, kindness, and non-judgment. So that's what we're working from. Because I know with mindfulness being a big buzzword, you may have done workshops in the past, and many times people come in with a different definition. I had someone a couple years ago at the beginning when I was at this point raise their hand and say, "You're not going to make me be grateful, are you?" I said, "No, I don't know, maybe, but that's not what." And she said, "Okay, good." Like, because that's what I did in the last mindfulness things. They just made me be grateful, and I didn't want to do that. So we have our working definition of what it is. And I also like to say what it isn't. Mindfulness is not just being calm. It's not just being calm and blissing out or, feeling so zen, as people say. That's not what it's all about. It's about meeting each moment wholeheartedly and with full presence. And as we all know, like, each moment is not a moment of joy. Each moment is not purely a moment of like clarity and calm. So it's not all about calm, although you can generate calm, you can generate presence and stability by practicing mindfulness. And the other thing about it is that it does, in that vein, it's not a stress remover. I always say it's not a stress remover. It can be a stress reducer. It helps you to approach stress and the challenges of daily life in a new way, maybe. So it doesn't get rid of those things. You're always, if you have kids, they're going to be there, especially if they're young. You got many years left. That's not going to change. The car is going to need to be fixed. That light is going to go on. These things are going to happen. The unexpected is going to happen. So it's not going to remove the stressors of life, but it's going to help us to manage those stressors better. So briefly, that's what it is, and that's what it isn't. So what is it? Like, how do we practice it? I could talk about it for a long time, and I'd be bored. You'd probably be more bored. So I want to give us a taste of it. How do we practice mindfulness? How do we attend to the present moment? So the great thing about it, and one of the things I particularly love about practicing mindfulness and meditation, is that you have everything that you need already to do it. You don't need to go out and get a lot of books or an app or anything like that. Those things can be helpful. But you have everything you need to be present with yourself. And that's what we do is we bring our attention back to our breath, back to our breathing, something that's always there, that's relatively neutral. We don't often have like a judgment on our breathing unless we're sick. And we come back to our body, something that's stable, something that's solid. So wherever you go, you can practice mindfulness, present moment awareness. You don't need to be sitting on the floor with your legs in a pretzel and your knees aching. It can be practiced in everything you do. Writing a brief, talking on the phone, driving, eating. You can even be mindful when you're having an argument with someone. So in whatever you do, you can practice. So what we're going to do today is dip our toe in the water, take a little taste of the cake, and I'm going to guide you to become aware of how you're feeling in your body, and also guide you to connect with your breathing. And before we go into it, I'll just give a gentle reminder that notice if you're like trying to put effort into it or trying to do it right. We try to soften on those things and just make it like an experience, make it an experiment of coming closer to yourself, of moving your attention from outward to inward. So it should be like a low effort practice. If you notice you're straining, like that's the time to ease off. All right. So this is going to be about a 7 or 8 minute practice. And like I said, I'm just going to guide you to pay attention to your breath, to your body first, and then to your breathing. And you can do this with your eyes open, just gaze down kind of at a space right in front of you. Or if it feels comfortable to you, you can have your eyes closed. And the other last thing is just to sit in like an upright posture that brings attention to mind and body. So I like to start our practice with 3 sounds of this bell. So it's just something that helps us to transition and bring our mind into the present, kind of wake us up from the activities of the day to bring our attention from the outward to the inward. Beginning by bringing your attention to your body, just feeling the points of contact of your body touching the chair, just starting feeling the upper back, lower back, in contact with the chair behind you, moving down to feel your lower body and the cushion beneath you, just coming all the way down to wiggle your toes and feel your feet firmly on the ground. And know that if your mind wanders during this short practice, that's totally natural. So when the mind wanders, we just gently bring our attention back to the focus on the body, the focus on the breathing. So from this point of feeling your body in the chair, opening your awareness a little wider, just to notice any sounds that you hear around you. Noticing any sounds that feel closer into the body, more subtle sounds. Noticing the space around you. temperature of the air on your skin, on your hands and arms, neck and face. And take a few minutes here to walk your attention through the body from head to toe, just noticing sensations in the body. Don't need to search for anything. And in some areas, if you don't notice much, that's fine. Just observing, noticing what's always there. So beginning by feeling into noticing sensations in the lips, in the mouth, teeth and tongue. Going back to the jaw, see if you're holding any tension in the jaw. Allowing the jaw to soften and unhinge. Aware of sensations in the ears, outer ears, vibration in the inner ears. Moving over to the eyes, feeling the eyelids, eyeballs, and just cherishing these few minutes of rest for your eyes here. Nothing to look at, nobody to pay attention to. Just a time of total rest for the eyes. And coming up to the forehead and the scalp. Just breathing in and breathing out of the forehead and scalp. And noticing again if there's any tension in this area where sometimes we hold things. And just feeling yourself breathing. And taking in the whole face, the whole head all at once, the expressionless, soft face. Moving down your body to shoulders and shoulder blades. You can let the shoulders roll back and down if you like. Just allowing the shoulders to drop, letting go of what you might be holding. Following sensation down the arms. You might feel the touch of fabric on skin. And coming all the way down to the hands. To again feel skin on skin or skin against the fabric of the fingers, the hands. From the hands, aware of the abdomen. As the body breathes itself, what is felt in the middle of the body. Moving down to check in with the lower body, feeling of your backside in the chair, the weight of the upper legs. Shining your light of awareness on your knees, aware of sensations in the back of the knees, front of the knees. Coming down to the calves and shins. Letting your attention come all the way down again to press your feet on the ground. And if there's any movement in the mind, you can imagine that energy, that movement going all the way down the body and being released through the feet into the earth. And from the bottom of the feet, opening your focus wider to take in your whole body all at once. And just to notice how it feels in your body right in this moment. Warm or cool. Noticing your energy level, calm, restless, somewhere in between. From this whole body awareness, we move to pay attention to your breathing for 2 or 3 minutes here. You can start at the belly. If you like, you can even place the palm of your hand right below your belly button and just hang out here for 3 breaths. Can you be completely present with a full in breath, a full out breath? The mind wanders, just come back to the breathing. Now moving your hand up to place it right in the center of your chest to feel the breathing from here. And the last spot where we pay attention to the breath is to bring your hand kind of right underneath your nostrils, in front of your mouth, to breathe for 3 breaths here. Letting the hands rest wherever you want, either back in your lap or on one of those spots. We're just going to take literally 1 minute in silence here to just stay with your attention on your breathing as your anchor or your home base. Or if you like, you can hold your attention on your body, a point on the body, where you can use as an anchor or a home base, a place to rest your attention. You can use sounds around you. So choosing a home base, somewhere to rest your attention for 1 minute, either on the breath, on the body, or on sounds. And the simple instruction is if the mind wanders, you just bring your attention kindly, gently back to your home base. So we'll have 1 minute and then 2 sounds of the bell to end. So you can have a little stretch if you want, just doing whatever feels good to you to gently come out of the meditation. So a key component, I guess, or key aspect of mindfulness is momentum. You know, just like when you work out, you go to the gym, you probably start eating a little better. You know, and the more that you work out or the more that you start to build a habit, the easier it gets, the more momentum you get. So it's the same thing with mindfulness. So as we come out of the meditation, we want to see if we can kind of continue with any momentum you gather, even if you gather just the smallest slight bit of stillness. You know, you heard the bell in the beginning, the mind was going for 10 minutes, you heard the bell in the end, you know, even the slightest bit of stillness, we can maintain the momentum. So we're going to open it up for your voices, and this is also a practice of mindfulness. So it's a practice of mindful speaking, which usually is just like speaking from the heart, from your experience, rather from the intellectual mind, which we, often use and need to use. So speaking from your experience from the heart, speaking from I statement. And then the other thing, it's an opportunity for mindful listening, to try to be as present as we can, feeling our body solid in the chair and truly attending to what someone says, and then taking a break kind of in between sharings. And then when something pops up for us, then we can say something. All right, so I'm really curious and excited to hear your voices, because my voice has been going and I want to break and I want to hear from you. So just going to offer 2 or 3 prompts for the sharing here. The first one being, what did you notice about your mind during that practice? Beginning, middle, and end. What did you notice was happening in the mind? What did you notice in your body? And then the third prompt is like, any surprises, or kind of that Jeopardy potpourri category, any other things that came up. Yeah, so let's go from there, and I'll step back. So when you feel moved to speak, you can just unmute, say hello, and then when you finish, you can just make some kind of gesture that you're finished, like thank you, or this is Mick stepping back. So I'll step back and open it for you. Is that clear to everyone? Any questions about that? Was there a question or a hand up? No? Okay, great. All right, so what did you notice anything you noticed in the mind, the body, and then just a grab bag of comments? And you can use the raise hand comment thing too if you want to.
So I noticed that, like you said, when my mind would start to wander, I would gently bring it back. And then when we started the 1 minute of silence, I didn't have to do that. I just focused on my breath and the sound of my breath, and was able to really find a nice calm that allowed me to just sit and breathe. And I haven't been able to do that in a long time, so that was nice.
I definitely agree with what Crystal just experienced and said. I think for the first couple of minutes, I think my mind was still kind of working, and just kind of kept steering it back to where it needed to be. But it felt kind of incredible just to take a little bit of a break, even from looking at things. So I think that was really helpful, Mick, to just kind of call that out of just. That matters too, just to kind of relax your eyes in all of this. So thank you.
Yeah, I think those are great comments and reflections to start off with. And it does like take us time to land, even if you've been meditating for like many years, we have our busy lives and things on our mind. And it really that's another aspect of like being gentle with ourselves, knowing that it takes some time for the mind and body to settle down, because we're used to being in a lot of mental and physical activity.
I really liked focusing on the sound. It's not something I often focus on, so you added that sense as well, because with the eyes closed, the sound I was able to notice it more and kind of use that as an anchor. So I like being able to not just use the breath, but also have something else that I could bring back to. And this is Lori stepping back.
Hi, thank you so much. That was fantastic. I haven't meditated in a couple of weeks, and I really noticed how hard it was, and I really appreciated you reminding us to return to your breath when you got distracted, because that for me is the hardest part of meditation, is figuring out how to get back into the breathing. So thank you. It was excellent.
Yeah, I really appreciate from Laurie and Amy, bringing in anchors, or what I call home base, because our mind, one simple way that I think about mindfulness is like our mind is often in the past or in the future. Our mind is like out here, right? But our body is always here. So mindfulness is bringing the mind and body together, back into harmony. If some of you do yoga, like that's what you're doing a lot of the time. You might notice when you do yoga poses, what happens if you're thinking. You start to wobble and you lose that, tree pose, or you lose that, lunge. That's the one word. When I have done yoga, doing that lunge, especially when you have to twist and do that thing, it's like when the mind is going, it's like, this way you're flipping and flopping, so bringing the mind and body together. And it's different things for different people as far as the anchors or the home base. For some of us, the breath can feel constricting, or the breath can be anxiety inducing for people. So that's why you can use your body as a home base for your attention to bring your mind back to something that feels stable, like your feet on the ground, or just the feeling of like your fingers or touching a blanket or touching your shirt, or sounds. All those sounds are always there. We just don't notice them because we're busy doing what we're doing. So that can be something to bring our mind back to the present moment. So we have time for one or two more, if your heart's beating and you want to share. All right, so it seems like we feel good with the reflections, and we have like 9 minutes left, so we're at a good point. So I'm going to just say a few more things. I want to open it up if there's any questions also from people. And kind of going back to that thought about how, like our lives are busy, our minds are busy, it's like the natural state of the mind to plan for things, to worry about things, to have memories. It's just what the mind does, and there can be a resistance when we try to bring the body and mind into stillness. As some of you said, you notice it's like when the body becomes still, the mind keeps going. And the mind can also play these tricks and act up and be like, oh no, like we're not doing this. We have things to do. And that might be a conscious thing or an unconscious thing. I even like notice it, when I'm working hard in my house, or my wife is, or son, and I say like, just take a break, or, just take a break for a minute or 2 minutes. But it's like, once we get going, even if we're feeling stressed, we don't want to take the break. Or if we do take the break is like here, and it doesn't turn out to be like a full break. So what we're doing in bringing our mind back to the present is we're creating this pathway to stillness, this pathway to a feeling of centeredness. But that pathway is really covered over with everything that we do. That pathway is covered over with leaves and dirt and dust and everything. So every time that we pause to breathe, that we pause to feel our feet on the ground, I have this image that we're kind of like sweeping the pathway. And then when we do it throughout the day, then when, we get really stressed, we're able to access that pathway. Does that make sense to people? Yeah. It's just like in therapy practice, I have some people when they start and they say, well, can I just see you like once a month, or can I just call you when I'm having trouble with something, And if we did it like that, they're not developing the skills to deal with things as they come up. It's like the runner who says, yeah, you can't just train for the 10K in the last couple of days. You can't train for the marathon in the last week. You're not going to be able to do it. You need to do it consistently day after day. So that's where I think mindfulness practice, is so valuable. And it doesn't just need to be the formal. I look at it as like there's the formal practice, like we did, time you take to sit down and just be by yourself, be in silence. That's the formal practice. And the informal practice, which has been said to be 100 million times more powerful and important than the formal practice, is finding these moments throughout the day to pause, to clear off that pathway to stillness. And this is how we bring mindfulness into our daily life. And you can carve it out by, setting a couple timers during the day. And when you hear that little beep go off, you just give yourself 1 minute. Can you steal 1 minute out of your day? People often say, oh, I'm too busy to do that. My mind's too busy. I'm too busy to do that. I don't have time for that. 1 minute or even 30 seconds to check in with yourself. What do I notice in my mind? How's my mind in this moment? How's my body? Like, did anyone notice that their jaw was clenched or holding tension in the meditation? Yeah, I'm seeing a lot of nods. Yeah, always get the jaw. Or one of your other tension spots. For many of you, like 10 o'clock in the morning. Yeah. So that's why we want to check in with ourselves throughout the day. So we can notice that and take care of ourselves. Whether you need to stand and stretch, whether you need to go get a cup of tea, whether you need to make that phone call in a minute that's weighing on your mind. We're stemming the flow of stress when we pause throughout the day to stop, to breathe, to pave that pathway to stillness. And it's actually creating a neural pathway in your mind. Just like if you learn an instrument, the more you do it, the easier it gets. And it actually, within 4 days with starting to practice mindfulness and mindful breathing, your brain starts to change. Your amygdala, which is the fight or flight center, kind of the security guard of your brain that looks out for threats, it starts to decrease some. It starts to shrink. That's the word I was looking for. So you become less anxious, less, on guard of the time. Within 4 days, the amygdala starts to shrink, and the areas of the amygdala start to connect with other parts of the brain that are vital in decision making, clear thinking. Those things we want to increase. All right, so we're down to 5 minutes. I want to wrap up my part here and give us time for, why don't I just open it up right now for questions? Because I want to pause and hear if there are any questions here as we come down for the last couple minutes, or any more comments, reflections that have come up for you.
Can I ask you one quick question, Mick? So, just as a recommendation, I think what would be helpful, are there any kind of not boundaries, but even, just kind of guidelines on, you talked about maybe 1 minute, maybe 2 minutes. Are there any benefits for doing, 15 minutes consistently every single day, or maybe 30 minutes consistently every day? I mean, I don't know if there's kind of a one-to-one payoff like that, but I didn't know lawyers bill every 6 minutes of their day. So if we're asking for 6 minutes, are we asking for 12, 18, any sort of information to share on kind of what guidelines could be?
Yeah, that's great. Yeah. So it goes back to like the formal practice and the informal practice. The formal practice, you might start with like 5 minutes a day that you can do at a time of day that works for you, and finding a place in your house, maybe the same place every day, or maybe you set up something there that marks it as your space, whether it's like a picture or a candle or some flowers. So every time you go by that space, even if it's like the edge of your dresser in your bedroom, like, all right, I'm going to sit on the edge of the bed for 5 minutes, or even in your office. So trying to find that time, start with 5 minutes. And say I'm going to do 5 minutes for 2 weeks, and then work up to 7 minutes, then 10 minutes. That's your formal practice, kind of like we just did. And then that informal practice, just finding these moments throughout the day to build your mindful awareness. And another one I think relatively easy way to build it in is to try to use that minute or two, like during transitions during the day. So like before you start work in the morning, when you come into your room or your office, just pausing and sitting with your body and breath for a minute or two. Before you end at the end of the day, if you're at home, before you go out to the other people, pets in your house, to be present with them, collect yourself, in these transitions.
I have a question. Oh, go ahead.
Mick, how long do you find this takes before it becomes kind of autonomous and, just starts happening involuntarily?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think that's one that people ask, because a lot of people are coming to mindfulness sometimes like for results, but it takes that like consistent practice. But in all honesty, I think within like 2 to 4 weeks, people start saying like, um, oh, I noticed that I was less reactive on that phone call, or I noticed that I was like more patient with my spouse. When you build it like legitimately over many years of doing this, people within 2 weeks to 4 weeks or say things like, oh yeah, I like, notice things on my walk that I never noticed before because I decided to walk and just pay attention rather than do something else while I was, walking the dog.
Great.
Actually, there's a family that I'm working with, and the mother has taken to walking her dog mindfully as her practice. So like not having her phone and just paying attention to the dog and paying attention to the, environment. And after a couple of weeks of doing this, she said that now whenever she takes out her phone on the walk, the dog kind of like stops and looks at her, or the dog starts to act up. So she's like, now when I'm not being mindful on the walk, the dog like will look at me, or the dog will stop. So it's like I can't do my dog walk without making it like a mindful practice. The dog feels it. So
You.
I would throw in
My
too.
yeah.
Oh, sorry, Crystal, go.
I just have a quick question. I obviously can't speak for everybody, but this pandemic has brought a lot of spontaneous moments of anxiety, whether it's from, the uncertainty with the kids or with work. In those moments where you find yourself getting that anxiety building up, maybe someone said something to you and you're frustrated. In those moments, how can you really tap into it, without kind of stopping in the middle of the conversation, closing your eyes and breathing?
yeah.
Is there like an internal trigger that you can suggest, that when you start to feel yourself getting really overwhelmed, that you can go, okay, gotta take a minute, let me take a moment?
Yeah, that's such a good question. I think that's part of the body awareness that we did, because the body gives us the warning signals. You know, you might know where you hold tension in the body. Like for me, I know it's in my shoulders. So some days I just feel that tension and I don't know what the emotion or the thought is yet. But that's like the warning signal for me to bring my attention like from here down to what's stable, like down to the belly, down to the feet on the ground. And to be aware of that feeling. That's another thing. It's like I said, mindfulness, we notice the mind wanders, we don't try to stop it. It's not about like getting rid of thoughts. It's about managing those thoughts and giving space for those thoughts and emotions to be there. So when we notice it, we can come back to what's stable, bring our attention down to our breathing, to our feet on the ground, and just pause there, notice what's going on, but take care of ourselves in that moment. And I think we're at time. We've even gone a minute over, so I want to respect people's time and let Laurie and Miranda wrap it up here. But I really appreciate everybody's attention today and your practice. And we will be sending out or making available an audio recording of the kind of 10-minute practice we did today. So it gives you something to practice for. And you can also, and there's a recording for the thing. I'll let Laurie and Miranda wrap it up. But a big thank you from me for everyone's time and attention.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mick, for donating your time to the legal community. He's on the East Coast, so he's doing good things out here for the lawyers in Colorado. But this mindfulness session was sponsored both by LawBank and also by LEJ, and this is just reflective of their shared commitment to wellness. Both organizations support small law firms and small law firm owners, and also the Colorado legal community in general. I'm sure you feel like I do right now, a little bit of a decreased level of stress. Hopefully we increase our productivity after this. But like Mick said, and like Laurie said, consistency in this practice is essential. So I hope all of you will join us next month. We intend to do this at 10 a.m. Just so everybody can take a quick break from their lives. And just kind of one more shameless plug for why this matters so much. You either make time for your wellness or you make time for your sickness. And I think all of us being here kind of shows which bucket we want to put our quarter into there. So thank you again, both Jay and Mick and Lori and Crystal, everybody for setting this up. We even had Jess appear from Chicago. So I'm super happy to see how many people were on this call. Let's make it bigger. Invite your friends, make sure you invite your colleagues too. So thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Have a great day.
everyone.